your Weather Authority forecast from meteorologist Amber Wheeler.
Well, as of today, the National Hurricane Center has now highlighted an area to watch for possible tropical development at some point next week. It's low confidence right now that we would see anything, but you can tell the area that is highlighted from basically Louisiana all into Florida, just something to keep in mind and keep an eye on. We've got a lot of moisture that's going to be pooling through here this week. It's not a guarantee that we'll see anything, but evidence is growing that this disturbance will likely be trying to develop at some point. It's not going to be a strong system, at least that's not the signal that we have right now. So I want to show you where this tropical moisture could start to pool. This is the tropical wave that we could get moving into the Gulf at some point early in the week. It's got a lot of tropical moisture associated with it, and we're going to get in on some of that regardless of whether this spawns a surface low, which would be our tropical development at any point next week. Just notice that we have a lot of moisture heading in our way. This is deep tropical moisture, so that's a pretty rainy signal for us and something that we'll have to follow for the second half of next week. Exactly how much is tough to say this far out, but this is a signal that you want to watch. Something else to note as well is that we have very warm waters in the Gulf, anywhere between 87 and almost 90 degrees. You can see where the hottest waters are really off the coast of Louisiana. So we've got the hot water, and we might have a conducive atmosphere enough to get maybe some small development. Again, not completely likely here, but certainly something that will follow based on the atmospheric conditions. But like I said, regardless of whether we see maybe a tropical depression or a weak tropical storm, we're going to get in on some rain. Now, this is just one model showing where we're going to see the heavier amounts all along the coastline. And this, of course, could impact us also. So I've really ramped up the rain chances for the second half of next week and into next weekend. Now, this is very typical to see a storm try to form in these areas or the parts of the Gulf. The June formation points, these are where storms have formed since basically the 1800s. Notice that we're starting to see the possibility of storms forming in July out into the Atlantic there. Certainly something to follow. There is evidence that the second half of July could bring more conducive conditions for that area. And if we do get a named storm, it would be Dexter and then Aaron. Now, I've ramped up those rain chances for when we're going to be following the Gulf here. Still lots of questions on that possible development. Still a low chance for now. But before then, we've got daily chances for some rain and storms, and these are certainly going to give us the isolated street flooding like we saw today. Here's where we're at tonight. A lot of this rain has really fizzled out, but earlier today we did get a storm that just sat over parts of the West Bank and parts of the lower Ninth Ward. This is what gave us a flooding, an isolated flood threat that really came into fruition. Notice that a lot of folks didn't see much rain at all, but Algiers into parts of Terrytown, into the Holy Cross neighborhood in the lower Ninth Ward saw anywhere between 3 and around 5 inches. So certainly saw a lot of heavy rain. This is a very typical summertime-like pattern for us to get those isolated rain showers that can give you that isolated street flooding. Not a lot of movement in the atmosphere to kind of move those along. And there's more of the same on Sunday. Doesn't mean you're going to see the flooding in the same areas. It just means we've got to watch every storm because there is a possibility that where you get those storms set up, you certainly could see some isolated street flooding. But I'm going with about a 40 to 50% chance of some rain and storms for tomorrow. Now, of course, we'll watch all of these, but this is what the radar could look like for you. Just like today, we'll probably see some isolated morning showers, and then once we get that daytime heating, you get that convection going, and that's going to give us more scattered showers and thunderstorms, only to see these fizzle as we head into late afternoon, early evening. More of the same into Monday. We do have the atmosphere that's conducive for these showers and thunderstorms. Not a lot of movement with these still, so again, an isolated street flooding concern will certainly be there for Monday as well. The rain potential for Sunday and into Monday, like I said, some areas could see some isolated high numbers here. You can tell that we've got a lot of moisture to work with in the atmosphere, so certainly carry your umbrella with you out if you're out and about on Sunday and into Monday. And you're probably going to need it at some point the first half of the week. You're probably really going to need it towards the end of the week. So there's your forecast for the next 7 days. Temperatures mostly in the low to mid 90s, and we certainly could be seeing some dangerous heat there for the first part of the week. But once the rain chances really start to ramp up, the temperatures aren't going to be as hot because of all that rain. And of course, out on the water, things are looking pretty quiet for all the mariners out there. Liz?
Okay, something to keep an eye on, and man, those downpours too.
They can
Every
be
day.
heavy.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Amber.